Hello, everybody.
Hello, we're Cesar and Pam with cesarandpam.com.
And we want to help you grow your business or career without losing your family in the process, specifically your parenting, your kids. We're going to talk about a really difficult subject today, difficult for us, and I think it's very difficult for most parents. I actually admire parents that are really good at this. I think some people are naturally good at this. I am not naturally good at this. And the title is, Do Your Teens Not Like You? Oof. Do they get mad when you try to say something to them? Do they even laugh at you when you try to give your opinion about a certain subject? We are going to tell you why that's the case. If you have kids, write in the comments. Even if you're watching a recording, write in the comments how many kids do you have, what their ages are, and we're going to talk about this subject that blood, sweat, and tears to learn, right, honey?
We're still learning.
Learning.
I mean, I just spent the morning teaching, subjects like Latin with our 13-year-old and our 12-year-old. And I was getting so frustrated because I was like, guys, come on. On Mondays, they go to class with another teacher. I'm like, you don't do this with your other teacher, with Mrs. Hodges. I mean, you guys don't argue between each other, bother each other. And then just, I don't know, the way they said something, I'm like, you don't talk like that to Mrs. Hodges. And I'm like, just having this discussion that we just had in Spanish, I'm like thinking, oh man, how are they seeing me,
Yeah, so here's a test. Here's a test. Have somebody tell your kid, close your eyes. Number one. And number two, have them ask your child or your teenager, picture the face of your mom or picture the face of your dad. And then the third question is, are they smiling? That is a true test. Many kids will say, I remember doing this with somebody and they said, oh, my mom is like this. So.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If a child turns his face to the person that smiles and is delighting them, just like a sunflower turns to the sun. And sometimes, I mean, I know this when they're little, they just, when someone cares about them and shows them attention and is smiling, I mean, they're all smiles back, right? And I don't know why it's harder to apply with my older ones. I'm thinking, I don't know, if you ask them to close their eyes after just spending the morning with me, they'll be like, no, she was not smiling. And it's harder. Why is it so hard?
Well, how many of you have teenagers and you're brokenhearted because the sweet little boy or the sweet little girl that used to love you and adore you and they thought you were the best, now they don't want to even talk to you. We talked about it last week. Why do kids not want to talk to you? And we're going to complete today that conversation because we talked about young children last week, but now we're going to talk about teenagers. We have 6 kids, ages 26 to 12, right? 1 girl, 5 boys. The oldest is a girl, and then the boy, Natalia and Cesar Jr. They're out of the house, they're married, but we still have 4 at home. Nicholas, who's 20, Marco, who's 16, Jaden, who's 13, and Lucas, who's 12. And I'm going to be honest with you, this has been the hardest transition for me in my parenting, and I've made the biggest mistakes not transitioning from parenting a small child to a teenager. And here's the biggest thing, the first principle we want to share with you. When your kids are born, they demand total control. They need total control from you. You decide when to feed them, when to put them to sleep, when to change them, when to check to make sure they're healthy, when to do everything. They're not self-sufficient at all, or they would die. They require total control. But they gradually need less and less control.
Yeah, and when they're little and you're showing that control, they think you're Superman. Dad is Superman. Mom is Wonder Woman. You know what's right and you know what's best for them. But then they start growing and they start seeing, Superman's cape has a little hole. He's not perfect.
Because he is underwear.
Yeah, Mom was kind of losing it there. She didn't have a very good attitude about that. They start to realize that we we aren't perfect, right?
Yeah. So the transformation has to take place where you start treating your young ladies and young men, your teenagers, as the future adults that they are becoming already. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have some limits. We're going to talk about it on another episode, but about respect and about obedience and about consequences. But right now, we want to focus on your attitude, mom, on your attitude, dad. Are you delighting in them? Are your kids like a sunflower when they talk to you? If you're not, then they're gonna turn their faces to a group who will. And I've been guilty of that just because that line is so imperceptible almost from when they're little kids, and you can just give them a sermon, give them a lecture, and they will do what you said. You quickly correct them because that's what it takes. That's what it takes when they're little. But later, you cannot do that. They're becoming adults, and that's not how you would treat any adult in your life, right?
And it's hard to see them as adults because we're the ones that see the inconsistency